So how this all came about was, every once in a while, especially on social media, I would get messages from female loan officers, usually in the start of their career, like third year, fourth year in, and they struggle with the whole like female male dynamic of usually the male's the provider and the breadwinner and, their man card and all those things. And I don't know what it's been lately, but I've been getting more messages. So I just thought that this would be so relevant to address, like, how does a man and a female balance a woman with a career, especially in the mortgage business that can be a bit demanding at times and not in normal time zones. And so I actually posted a video. Jason is not necessarily a fan of social media, would you say?
I don't love it. I think at this point it's a necessary evil in society. It's
look at him, look at me when he answers.
It's
from a business standpoint.
It's unavoidable from a business standpoint at this point. If you are running a business or own a business or your business is social media, obviously it's necessary. I think from a personal standpoint, I still struggle with like sharing my life on the internet just because I'm 44 years old. Like when the internet first hit the scene, like I was on like a dial-up modem. Like I was like a little old for like the MySpace thing. And so I never had a Facebook. I didn't do that kind of stuff. It was like I was just like maybe a little bit too old and didn't embrace it. And so I still struggle putting my life on camera. It's still a little uncomfortable.
What about to micro learn? Like, do you see value in those who maybe can't afford these big tickets and events?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And that's why I think what you do is really important because you're educating, right? And so like for me, Instagram was like a big way for me to really, I've always liked to cook, but like I really, really got into cooking from Instagram and started following chefs and tutorials and all this stuff. And I don't currently have Instagram. It's not on my phone anymore, but
how do you feel about your spouse being all up on social media and our life being all up on social media?
It's hard sometimes. Yeah, it's hard. Denise, so
you can be honest, y'all. This is meant to be.
No, I'm going to be honest.
I know, but
you don't have to worry about
I do want to set the tone before we like officially kick off that I just want to lay it out there that I am not portraying, and neither are you portraying Mr. Nerd who goes by Jason. We're not sitting here saying.
My name is Jason. Yeah,
that's what it says inside his underwear. Well, I call him Mr. Nerd, but I'm not definitely coming out here trying to say like our relationship is perfect today or give any kind of messaging that's like that. I'm just trying to share some things that we've learned on the climb because we definitely still have our issues, but I just don't want anybody to take.
Still climbing.
We're still climbing. We're still climbing.
Still got our climbing
but anyways, continue on. How do you feel about me putting our business
It's hard
out there?
sometimes. Yeah, it's hard. Denise has gone to Denise's default mode is to pull the phone out. Like me and Carter were in the backyard the other day and like she's in the office and we're practicing baseball. Baseball's coming up. And she's like, and I'm like, God, man, I'm out here and like, I'm in like my house t-shirt. It's all like, your house t-shirt is not. And so I'm like out here barefoot and I'm just like, I don't want to be recorded right now. Babe,
don't want everything documented.
Yeah. And so sometimes I do have to kind of check her and be like, dude, like
put the phone away.
Taking pictures of her dinner every night. I'm like, this is not necessary. Like,
although your meals that you make are pretty impressive.
I know they are, but I'm like, it doesn't have to be.
It's a thing that is a thing. I think even in your line of work, and there was a gentleman that came up to me at Momentum Builder, and he said that he has a wife who, like, he's trying to be on social more, and part of being on social is showing that you're not just business and showing some more of the personal side of things. But he's like, my spouse is like doesn't want the family and the kids on social, and I'm like, dude, I get it, especially now with the AI technology that's coming out and the So it's a hard balance. That's not what all these questions are in here, but
it's also something you can control. Like you don't have to share. Gary Vee's a great example. He doesn't. You don't see any pictures of his kids. Anywhere online, and he's probably the most documented human. And you really didn't see anything about his wife. Now, he got divorced. Now you see his new supermodel girlfriend. But
Right.
he's very selective of what he allows people to see while still giving them an opportunity to get to know him in certain areas. Like we know he likes the New York Jets. He wants to be able to buy them.
I
one
think
day.
I'm the same. I think I'm a prescribed personal poster. Like you and I have talked about how you don't, like I don't put a whole lot on social about you. You're not on a lot of the pictures or on a lot of the videos because you've asked that, and we don't want our relation. Like you never want to become that relationship that's like, well, let's go to this dinner so I can post about it on the gram.
Yeah.
Like that's something that we talked about. Yeah. So you see more of maybe Carter than anything, but outside of that, you don't really see anything about our relationship.
Our relationship is not online. I mean, we've just always been that way. Like even early on, it just was not. It was just not ever like that. And I don't. It's not that Denise has like 20,000 Instagram followers. Like it is odd to me to think that I would be out somewhere and someone would recognize me for that. Is like my worst nightmare. Like I just don't. I'm a very private person anyway. I have a very small circle of friends. I don't, my own social media, I don't really share much. And so, yeah. So.
Oh, is that an issue?
No, I don't know.
Not for this podcast.
Not for this podcast.
Oh.
Yeah. I just am not, I'm not out there. And so I don't mind being on her Instagram. It's fine. It is what it is. I think it would be weird if I just was like, there was like no presence of me at all. I think as time goes on, Carter being on there is more of a concern to me, just from like a worrisome parent standpoint. It's like, there are people out there that know what my son looks like, and that's very uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
And so it just is what it is. I mean, Denise has a great brand for, I don't really love that term. I think it's kind of corny, but Denise she has a brand. And so, her brand is what it is. And there is a lot of professional content. There's a little bit of personal content sprinkled in, and it just is what it is. It's like, it's just normal for us.
Well, I'm glad you show more, because I would say it was probably like 5-6 years ago, I would get DMs of like, is your sister a lesbian? Is she married? Like, because you never showed any personal.
It was nothing. There's been a gradual shift from.
I had to make sure you were a keeper.
Oh my gosh, that's like the longest trial period. My God, he's like the longest lasting person in our life.
I know, in my life, yeah. So we'll dive into some of that, because a lot of where we are today is definitely not where it started and when you're on the climb. And so I just want to thank a lot of the females that felt confident enough to write in and ask these questions. It clearly is a big enough topic that's out there that even when I posted the video that we were going to do this, Shayla, who is a boss chick, and Jason's met, and we've met her husband, Galen, who's awesome. She sent me a message and was like, oh my gosh, I've been getting a lot of that, and we're going to do something. And so it's definitely needed, and I appreciate you coming on and doing this, because I know this is not necessarily your comfort zone, but I think we're going to help a lot of women and men learn maybe some things that we learned along the way that could make their life a little bit easier. So I wrote the questions down that they wrote in from DMs, and I thought we would just go through them and answer them. Full disclosure, Jason didn't want to know any of the questions ahead of time. And if you know anything about this Yankee, he keeps it always real. There's no sugar. Do you ever sugarcoat? No, there's no sugarcoating.
Not even in like the old days when you actually had to work for a boss and like.
Not really. I think there's a political game you have to play in the corporate world, but I learned pretty early on in my professional life that there's a way to still be very honest and kind of soften the blow a little bit. I don't really do that with Denise, but
no, there's no mercy. But I appreciate, in my later years, and in the beginning years, I hated it, and I thought he was mean and rude, and even some people in the South might meet him for the first time and think, wow, that was kind of brash. But now in my older years, I just appreciate the upfront, brutal. You always know where you stand. There's definitely no second guessing. And I'd kind of just rather know right up front, so you don't have to waste a bunch of time. So I've learned to appreciate it. But
yeah, look, to be clear, I'm not like just an asshole. Like I'm not. That's not. unless you deserve it. But
Unless someone cuts you off.
I would just
The Yankees
those
lose.
days are over. The Yankees.
lose to the Astros.
Yeah, but I think I'm not going to sacrifice my feelings to, save someone else's feelings. And
So important.
yeah, when I met Denise, that she was a complete opposite of that.
Yes. So talk
she
about
would-
like cultural clash.
100% was like, I'm going to sacrifice and my own feelings so that I don't hurt someone else's feelings. And I think that is just not the way to live your life. I mean, that you are then the ultimate people pleaser. You're
Yes.
never going to do anything for yourself because you don't want to rub anybody the wrong way. And it's just like, how do you live your life like that?
Yeah.
it was unintentional, but I think we're both.
No, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it took you pointing it out and then me realizing like, oh my gosh, at the end of the day, I'm exhausted and spent and it's for everybody else and not for me. And
And how can you ever be yourself?
yeah.
How can
Yeah.
you ever be yourself doing that? You can't. You're sacrificing literally who you are so that you don't ruffle feathers. And I'm like, I just couldn't see it.
Yeah.
You evolved quicker in that way where I, for much longer, even if you need someone to like to care enough to be honest with you to point it out. And it was even something I wrestled with where I'm like, no, I'm just a giver. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm a
Yeah,
people
I'm
pleaser.
nice. You're a jerk. I'm nice.
Yeah.
You know?
But you get so resentful and you don't realize how unhealthy it really is and how dishonest it really is until you
Yeah.
have someone.
Yeah, you're not.
But that's the point of how different we were when
Yeah.
we
Yes.
first met was
Yeah.
we were on totally different ends of the spectrum. And I know that this question isn't in there, but we met at work and he came up to me in my cubicle with his little yo-yo
I was
asking
going to
me
say it was the yo-yo game. I remember.
So there is a question in here that says, did you guys meet before she was the mortgage nerd? So
long before. she
yeah.
was the mortgage
Would you
nerd.
say I was a nerd when we first met?
I mean, I thought you were cool right away.
You thought I was cool because I looked cool.
I thought you were cool right away. No, I don't know if you were always the nerd. I think you were always really like invested in what you were doing.
Like in work.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be the best at work.
Yeah, always.
And it was a
like,
call center, right?
Right away.
Is that-
Yeah, it was basically like, if you've ever seen the movie Boiler Room, it was basically like Boiler Room. I'll save the details behind what we were doing, but it was basically like Boiler Room. And we were selling an e-commerce business package, basically like a drop ship.
I worked there, remember, for like
Yes,
30 seconds.
yes.
I lasted 30 seconds.
Deborah couldn't hang.
Yeah.
She was like, I'm out.
It was basically like what today is like drop shippers through Amazon. We were essentially selling them to like, they'd build a website, they'd find a bunch of drop shippers and sell stuff. And it was total BS. But like literally as soon as Denise got there, she was successful. And so and that was attractive to me, obviously. And so, but yeah, I mean, right away I could tell that she was invested.
So you wouldn't say I was a nerd?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I would.
Okay.
I mean,
So
we
I'd say
can
you
go
were,
pretty
like,
deep
the nerd or
on like a few topics, but like things that are very worldly or like most people would know, we don't know what they are, like common
that
sense
is correct,
things.
yes.
I just meant like when you met me, I was probably 24 and you guys, they'd all be like, oh, let's go to happy
So
hour.
yeah, okay, so
And I was like, no.
yeah, like okay, so when you say the nerd, I'm thinking like, the mortgage nerd and like
No.
from a work standpoint.
No.
You mean like literally? Like
I'm saying like 24. You guys are all going
total
to
square.
Total
When
Square.
Yeah, like everyone that I met, everyone that I knew when I met Denise, I was like, we started dating. I was like, yo, this girl's a total square, dude. Total square.
They would like
What
be
does that
taking
mean?
shots and I
Total
like
square?
pass
Just
the
nerdy,
water.
like she, like didn't like where I
She's
grew
still
up. we
kinda
call
that
it
way,
color square.
homebody.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 100%.
No, but I wasn't a drinker or a partier. I just,
Yeah, and to be clear, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just
Yeah.
like where I grew up, we were like, yo, you're a square.
It's the Jersey Shore, right?
I was, yeah, they would all go out. And I'm like, I'm going to go home and watch YouTube and get up early and go to work. And they're like, no, we're going out. I'm like, yeah, no, I don't want to. So one of the first questions is I think people are wanting to know your personality type considering our relationship today. So that said, would you say that you're an alpha male, a secure type, and are you jealous?
I wouldn't. The alpha thing is just, I can't stand it. I hate it. Like if you are a man and you're like proclaiming yourself to be an alpha, like you're doing it wrong, dude. Alphas don't need to tell people they're alphas. Just
True.
It comes off you.
So would you say you're a secure man?
I'm a secure man. Yeah.
Are you a jealous man?
No. Like when it comes to us, no. Early in our relationship, very much so, because I was really insecure. I was just a really insecure man at that time in my life. And I was insecure. I think anytime you're like new love, like you're going to be insecure. Like when you give your heart to someone, it's a very insecure feeling, especially like I'd been in one serious relationship prior to that, like real serious relationship, like where we had lived together for a period of time and it ended badly and I got my heart broken. And so like anytime you're going to, fall in love with someone, there's an insecurity there. It's natural. And then being that I was an insecure man at that age, I was a little jealous. And
how did you feel? Because like back then, it's like I'm starting this. I left Chase, and I'm in my own career, and I'm working for myself essentially and building the brand.
Well, that was a couple years later. Like how many? You worked at Chase for a number of years. So after,
but I mean, that's what in the loan officer world. And so as a female, you're texting on your phone late at night. You're working with successful realtors that dress nice. Like,
meetings.
How did you handle, like, I won't say his name, but the one male realtor that would constantly text me and, anyways, how do you handle that? How did you handle that back then?
So in order for me to answer that, we have to back up because to be clear, you were at Chase for a long period of time, and Chase was a beating on our personal life.
Yeah.
So I think we can't really talk about
Okay.
what you're asking me until we talk about Chase, because Chase was 6 days a week.
Oh.
Chase was bank hours. Chase was no Mondays and Fridays off. You couldn't take vacation Monday or Friday, right?
You couldn't take a vacation the day before a holiday,
day
or
before after a holiday.
Couldn't have both. And I made $32,000 a year.
Yeah. So Chase was an absolute beating on our personal life. And that was 5 years almost. And so I feel like that was the rockiest time in our relationship was the Chase years, because there almost was no personal life. Like I would go to Jersey every summer. I go to Jersey for at least a week or two. Every Christmas, like I didn't spend a Christmas in Texas until Carter was born. And so, and even then I think we've only spent 2 or 3 Christmases in Texas. And so, there was like no vacations. Like we never did. There was one time where we went to Florida. My whole family went to Florida and Denise went, but like that is the only vacation I can remember. And so you have me being upset because we can't do like couple stuff together. We get like one day a week. And then on top of that, like I'm insecure because she is dedicated and married to the job. I mean, Denise is like probably the hardest worker I've ever met. And so, she is literally married to the job. And so, we don't talk during the day because you can't be on your phone at Chase because it's a corporate atmosphere and you're at the bank and it's, whatever. And so there were times in that period where I think Denise broke up with me twice during that time period. But there were times where I was like, this just ain't it. I loved her, but I was like, this ain't gonna work, dude. I can't.
It wasn't working. Yeah, we were fighting because I was working all the time, and at that time,
what were you doing where you could take the vacations and?
So there was about I don't think it was a year maybe, but there was like 6+ months where I was out of work after the sales job where we met, and then I kind of fell backwards into recruiting. During those 5 years, I had job hopped once or twice. I tried to start my own recruiting company. Like this all happened within 5 years. So my job history was like it was kind of unstable.
Sales from sales job to sales job.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And so that was why I think even one summer, like I bailed and I was just gone for like 6 or 8 weeks. Like I was
pretty sure that's when I broke up with you.
Just hanging.
Yeah. You're so married to work that I'm sure that was hard for you to see someone not working.
It was. She was not. Yeah. She was irritated by it. I remember specifically the one year where I'd left. Like I just got in my car. I was like, I'm out of here, dude. Wow. So I drove I drove to Jersey.
Yeah.
I spent like 8 weeks in Jersey, and I was chilling. I was like on the beach.
I was like, bye.
Denise was at work 6 days a week. She was so mad. And
I wasn't mad. I would say for me, because of our upbringing, having financial security
Right.
for my future, I was willing to sacrifice anything in my 20s to build towards a financial future, first and foremost for myself, and then ultimately for the family. So anything that distracted me from that, love or not, like I wasn't going to lose sight of that. And so I would say my first love was work.
Yeah.
I mean, and he felt that constantly where it's like, but I'm looking at you like, okay, but you just went to New Jersey for 8 weeks. So this is fun and you make me laugh and this, but like at that time it was like, I don't see this going further than just like the fun.
And I was a total goofball at the time, to be clear. Like I was still much more interested in like hanging out and partying with my friends and doing dumb shit and just like not thinking about my future really. I loved her. I wanted to be with her, but I was just like, dude, I'm just kind of living YOLO. And so anyway, so to say all that, moving into the mortgage thing, I think that it was...
When I was moving into the mortgage thing, you matured more. And by that point you were vested in your own career.
Correct.
You were climbing the corporate ladder. And that's really where a lot of these questions come into fold is like, okay, we got the immature stuff, silly stuff out, the multiple breakups out. But in 2012, when I left the bank, I was trying to grow my career at the same time that he was growing his career and climbing the corporate ladder and climbing well. Like he was making moves that, so I don't know if you want to dive into that. But.
So to finish off the question, the first question that we asked. So that period of time was where I think I was just maturing as a person, much more than I was previously. I had, like you said, success in my career, and I was starting to see kind of where my life is going, and like this is where my life is going, and so this is good, and I need to stick with this and keep moving this way. And I had at that point, I knew Denise was the one at that point, and there was like no question about that to me. So I was like, it's her. And so still though, very insecure because of the job. Denise's career has always been number one. Jason was never number one. Jason was number two. And so
what would you say today?
Jason's number 3 now. Jason's
You
moved to
moved
number
down
3.
the list.
Yeah, I moved down. So it's like Carter, mortgage nerd, JB. So in that time, though, you start to, if you have half a brain and you've spent time with Denise, you recognize her greatness, right? And you start to see that, like, Denise's brain does not work like most people's brain, right? And so Denise does not like when I say this, but I don't see Denise as a salesperson. I see Denise as like, she very much has a marketing brain and a good one. And so Denise has always kind of been like a little step ahead of everyone else. And so she kind of is like, I'm going to do this, and she's ahead of the curve. And so she does this, and that is part of the reason why she's been so successful. You can work extremely hard and have success in life, but you have to have something that someone else doesn't to be as successful as Denise has been. And so as I started to mature, just not only in our relationship, but as a human and as a man, and you recognize that, and I'm like, okay, I need to like help like incubate this and not fight it anymore, because I fought it for a long time, because I felt like, you know, I was never going to be it in the relationship for her. It was always going to be work. And I think as I started to understand that that's okay, as long as I'm getting what I need in the relationship, then, you know, if I'm like, you know, let's go out of town for a weekend, and she's like, look, I got stuff I need to do, and not being, you know, not like pouting about it, because I understand what she's trying to build. And so, you know, when you recognize that, you start to get comfortable. And so I started to get comfortable. And so because of that, when there's late nights, there's open houses, there's men texting her, and, you know, the real estate field at the time, and maybe still is, you know, male dominated. And so, you know, you have to be secure in the relationship and know that your partner is dedicated to you, and that, especially for me at the time, because like I was having success, but she's dealing with people who have are successful. And so you have to be secure that some successful dude isn't going to like wave a bunch of cash at your girl and be like, look how successful I am. And she's like, well, this guy is like, 5 steps ahead of my man. Like what's going on over here? And so there's a lot of like, necessary trust that you have to have in those situations and say like, all right, I trust my partner and nothing weird is happening. He is just building a business and this is for us. It's not just for her or him. This is for us. And so it was hard. I mean, there was a lot of hard times because of it, because again, Denise is married to her career. Like, to be fair, and I want to point this out, is like most people, I would say like 99% of the population has like a job or a career that they do to make money. And you make good money. And so you can, like when I was in recruiting, like I was making good money doing recruiting. It was great. And so, but I never loved recruiting. Like I didn't even like that shit. It was cool because I got to work with people and I was helping people. So I'm like helping people find new and better jobs, helping them make more money. And that's a good feeling at the end of the day. But like, if something else came along that was going to pay me more money, I would have been like, I'm out of here. Denise is not like that. Denise truly loves what she does. She loves helping people. She's found an avenue to help people in a number of different ways. And so when I say she's married to her career, or, she is the mortgage nerd, it's because of how passionate she is about what she does, which is also a reason why she's so successful. And so again, moving forward, like into being the nerd, anyone with common sense, and I like to think that I have a lot of common sense, recognizes these things, and you recognize greatness, and you, at some point, the switch flips and you say, I want to be a part of this. I want to help this person be the best person they can be, not only for them, but for us as a unit. And so I think...
So that flip switch in your mind, because there's a lot of women that are like, husband and wife work and they're like, I want to spend $200 a month on marketing for my business, but my husband says no. So like, what could the female do to get their man to realize greatness? And that, if it's within their budget, let's just pretend that it's within their budget, but the man's just like, no. How did you come to that? Like how?
Because I feel like what he was able to do, and maybe this is ignorant in my thinking, but most men like want to feel needed and wanted, and it's like a control thing that if they are the head, they want to be the provider. And because you see these Disney movies growing up, and the princess always needs to be saved, and so there's like this feeling of significance of being able to provide. Where I feel like that's where a lot of men will fight women and try to keep them here, and they don't realize it's actually an insecurity or a control thing that they can end up having over them. So the woman who's asking, if I want to spend $200 a month, how can I get my man to see, well, one, does she have the same greatness? Because you are a rare breed. Like you do work really hard. You had to sacrifice a lot to get to where you are now. And I think some of that is deeply rooted into how we were raised, where you were the typical middle child. And I feel like with Dad, the only way we would ever receive love from him is when we made him look good, like typical kind of narcissist. So we were all these high achievers, because it's not like we'd ever be told good job or I love you, but you would get at least not the dirty eye look. But for you, being the middle child, like I always kind of had mom. I was mama's, girl, and then Dad's,
Angel.
Was Christy, and then there was you. So I feel like you were always fighting to be seen and heard and achieve in a different way, which helped root you into landing a career that you actually do enjoy and love and working so hard. But for men who want to feel needed and wanted, and
well, I think for me it's an escape. And so like we've done our fair share of counseling, and there was a level of like, you're addicted to work. And so I think I don't necessarily felt like I need to be needed or heard from Dad, but I found an escape in because at the time I was working for Rick, and I was in high school obsessed with basketball and working for Rick. Like I didn't even want to go to school. I was doing Rick's marketing and his accounts receivable, and I was obsessed with it because it became my escape place that I could control and feel safe. And the more that I worked hard at, I could have the results that I wanted. And so if I worked hard, I got those results and I wouldn't be let down because only myself would let me down. Whereas like dad and mom, they let me down. Certain family members let me down. Certain humans can let me down, but if I'm relying on myself, then
Well, that wasn't obvious. Damn.
I mean, at that time, so I just bet on myself, and I knew. So it was my escape, which is a form of addiction, but I could control, and I felt good when I achieved and had that success. So I know we're using words like, and I'm not here to rebuttal, but we're using words like you're married to the job. I think of it like Kobe or an athlete. You're obsessed with basketball. You're obsessed with the game. And he wanted to win, there's no doubt. But he was also the guy that showed up at the court at 4 a.m. and would practice 3 times a day. And so all I'm saying is I'm obsessed with the process. I'm obsessed with the outcome, with the success. I'm obsessed with putting the Rubik's Cube together in a different, more efficient way.
Yeah, because you're financially set now. Like you don't have to, but you still do.
Because it's just like
It's probably annoying at the same time because
It's not
like,
actually at this point. So,
but when people ask, well, what's your hobby? What's your passion? It's like, that is actually my passion. And it's weird for most people because for most people,
you are
it's
so fun to hang out with.
It's work, but it's, so I say all that because I think as a female, to make your man feel trusted, because there was a level of, I'm around successful people, I'm traveling to conferences, men would always come around and wave their cash or their cufflinks.
They're baiting you, and we're naive at times to not pick up on some of the baiting.
Yeah, but I'm not attracted to that. Yeah. I'm attracted to like security, and I never trusted men very much. I tried to push Jason away. Pretty much any guy that comes into my life, I push them away until I feel like, okay, you've been tested enough that I can trust you and let you in a little bit. I guess male or female. I'm wired that way. So there are some things that as the woman, if we're speaking to this audience, that you can do to be aware that your man is in this environment, secure or not. Like have your phone out and don't have it upside down all the time, or take the phone call and have it, and you're looking at me.
To be clear, my phone is upside down all the time.
But I'm saying
I used to have a privacy screen protector.
I'm saying and sometimes I do it because I can't stand all the notifications.
That's exactly why mine's upside down.
But I'm just saying, like, there are things that you can do where I am very passionate about work, but we've had conversations of like, these are my needs. These are the things that you need to do to meet my needs. Don't come home every day at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. I now try to get home in time for dinner every single night. There are certain things that we've had to discuss to get on the same page.
Communication is so important. Yeah. I think when I'm thinking about answering that question, I'm thinking about a 25-year-old couple who is maybe newly married or is on the verge of, maybe they're engaged or in a long-term relationship or whatever it is. I think that's who I'm going to address with that question. If you're 20 years old and you have a boyfriend and he's like, I don't want you to work a lot, find a new boyfriend. Like,
what if this is a 40-year-old who's married and been married for 10 years?
Perfect. That would be a great way to address the question. I think that if you have been married for 10 years and you go to your husband or wife and ask if you could spend $200 to help further your career and they say no, then you need to have a different conversation. You have to believe in someone if you've been married for 10 years. You have to. If you don't believe in them, then you should go.
So if I told you I wanted to be a professional singer and that I needed $200 a month.
I love you enough to tell you to your face today.
Like we don't even like when you sing happy birthday.
Ever happen.
Yeah. What about a backup dancer for Beyonce?
But there are probably I could be a backup dancer. I just can't sing. Can we just set the record straight? I am the best dancer in the family.
That is correct.
Yes, thank you.
The bar is very low.
Have you seen the moves?
I've seen you.
But what if the man is like, because I'm horrible at singing. I can't carry a tune. So what if the man's like, honey, I know you've had 4, what are those called? Multi-level marketing jobs. And now you're in the mortgage space and you want me to take your mortgage thing serious. But we've been married for 10 years and I've seen your history and you're coming to me asking for $500 a month for marketing and our budget.
Look, I mean, there's a lot of different caveats you could throw at the situation. I think just for the sake of answering the question, I think that you need to believe in yourself, and then you need to sell to your partner why you should be spending that money. And so again, assuming you have the budget for it, and if your partner is, hesitant or, doesn't necessarily believe it's worth it, you have to sell them on it, just like anything else. If you can't sell your partner, you can't sell anyone.
Yeah.
Probably a good point. So this one says, did you meet Denise before she was the mortgage nerd? If so, was she really a nerd? We already answered that. When you guys were dating, was her work schedule frustrating?
Yes, we answered that one. It still is to a certain point.
How so?
So maybe frustrating is too strong of a word. I think
Annoying.
Yeah, I think even annoying would be too strong of a word. And it's not the same. It's not the same level of frustration or whatever it was years ago. I think now is I see how hard you still work and how the work affects you sometimes, especially over the last year or so when the market is down, the grind becomes the grind. I see what it does to you on some days, and it's hard for me. It's hard for me to see that because all I can do is listen and offer, an ear when you need it. And so I think that has kind of become kind of my thing, is like seeing how you are still like, dude, Denise is still grinding like every effing day. Dude.
I just
Every
think
day.
of your
And I'm
ears, the amount of things you probably have to hear and listen.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Is,
I don't think
can we go ahead and
it's
shout out
interesting
your
because
Venmo?
I feel like I am not. I wouldn't label it as grinding. I mean, what I've been doing lately with the consults and the Zoom is definitely more than I had done in the last few years because the market has shifted.
Yeah.
But when I think of grinding, I think of how I would do open house crashing every weekend and how and like
You don't think what you're doing is grinding?
I guess grinding would mean I don't like it.
She doesn't even have to. It's just this
She doesn't.
relentless pursuit of.
It speaks to her Again, it speaks to her greatness. I'm not gonna like just kind of.
If I
for
wasn't
an
doing
hour
all
out
these
here,
Zoom
but-
consults, that's
Yeah, because you're grinding. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't gonna say it, but like,
But does
okay,
she grind at night?
I'm gonna.
That's what everybody wants to know.
probably not enough. But
Are we
Not
talking
enough for
top
his
or bottom?
needs.
What's the okay? Well,
But-
wait.
Denise has been doing the last month or month plus now, has been doing like all the Zoom consults. She's like, there are days where Denise is working from the house. She's in front of the camera for 8 hours. That is grinding.
Yeah.
I'm having to like make sure dinner has to be ready at 5:15 so Denise can eat, settle in, and get on a Zoom at 6. Or Denise is on a Zoom at 6, so we're not eating until 7 o'clock. And so it's like, that is a grind. Denise is still grinding. I don't want don't do that.
but
Don't do that. You're diminishing your hard work. I don't want to hear that
Okay.
nonsense.
All
Denise
right.
is still grinding.
And
Trust
can
me.
we clarify, if you were out of town, what would Denise eat for dinner?
So to be clear, Denise can eat whatever she wants for dinner. When I go out of town, I'm more concerned what Carter is eating for dinner.
I eat potato
Because I know
chips
Denise
or a
is
peanut
eating
butter
a
jelly
turkey
sandwich
Denise
or
is eating a turkey sandwich with Lay's potato chips on it.
Or a hot dog
Or
from like racetrack?
I haven't done that.
Not anymore.
I'm-
not
I'm
anymore.
totally
I broke-
upgraded.
I broke that. I broke that habit. Yeah, I shamed her out of that habit.
God.
I do get good. But
Your
we
nutrition
had
level has definitely.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks to Jason. I know.
You're welcome.
Thanks to Jason, which I love it. But we did have I don't know when it was, but we had like okay, how do we want our relationship to look? I think we need to talk about that because it didn't happen strategically. If I was to give advice to somebody today, it's like if you're growing your career is starting to do well, you need to have like a counseling session with your man to say, how do we want this to look? What roles do we want to have? Because you and I have always talked about there's this perception of a relationship has to be 50-50. And so
That's a fallacy.
what is go into detail about that to help women have the conversation with men?
So I think no matter what anyone thinks, your relationship is never going to be 50-50. It's just not how life works. People have different personalities. You want and need different things at different times. The relationship will never at any point be 50-50. It might be 80-20 for a time period, or it might be 60-40, but there's never going to be a 50-50 split. It's just not, in my opinion, it's just not possible. And so for us, I think it was around the time you were trying to get pregnant. I wasn't able to get pregnant, but
You're doing the single favorite act that you enjoy doing.
I was practicing. You were trying.
Or like
crying.
30-second male contribution to pregnancy.
Yeah.
Much longer than that. So around that time, we had some, as you should, had some serious conversations about what the relationship looks like, what it's going to look like moving forward after you have a child or children, because those are things that you should definitely work out beforehand.
Unless you're me.
Unless you're just
YOLO.
speed racer.
Does anyone want my relationship advice? No, we'll do a different podcast.
But you have to have a role in the relationship, and it has to be clearly defined, especially when you have someone or two people who have careers that they're dedicated to, and then you bring children into the mix. I think what I think that means is recognizing who has you have to look at the income potential, right? Like whose income potential is higher, and then that.
Which was hard because you were making six figures, and like that's always like the first goal in your career is like to make six figures. And I think you were making six figures
I was
before me.
Into six figures before bonus. And so
and to be clear, you still own multiple businesses today. Like it's not like you don't work.
Right, correct. Yes, I do work. I have two businesses. But I think at the time,
and becoming crypto rich.
I know, dude.
Close.
That's
We're so close.
Says I can retire when he gets
We're so
crypto
close.
Jordan
rich.
tells me some of the stuff. I'm like,
close.
dude,
Yeah,
keep doing whatever you're doing. I don't understand
I'm about
any
to
of
disappear.
That's the way he keeps saying.
to
It's like,
disappear.
you're gonna.
I'm not going to tell you where I'm going to.
Okay, keep going because we got a lot of questions.
So defining roles is super important, and so I think at the time we had this conversation, and I remember it vividly. It was like, all right, look, Denise can't cook. She doesn't cook. She's never.
I don't
cooked.
like to cook.
Yeah, she doesn't like to cook. I
don't like the grocery shopping.
I absolutely love cooking. Cooking to me is like a love thing. Like I love to feed people, my family, my friends. Like I love to cook, and so I have no problem being the chef in the family. I make dinner every night.
He decides what we're having for dinner.
Yeah,
he goes grocery shopping.
I do
for
all
it.
that stuff, but I love doing that stuff. And so why would we split cooking 50-50 if Denise doesn't like to cook? It doesn't make sense. And so that was a role that we defined, that so that we're not eating out every night or getting takeout every night, is that I'm going to cook. That's my role in the relationship. At the time,
and I didn't want to feel, until we defined that, there was a level of like guilt that I felt because, all of our friends or family members, like the wife cooks. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
and
I'm not being a good
I always said I got
wife.
one
I'm
meal
not being,
that I make.
But there's a real,
Come on, Gray.
I bake children. I
think
don't bake
it's
cookies.
real for women to feel like I'm not doing the female roles either.
Yeah, and that's a society thing. I think for so long it's been, like beaten over the head that the woman's role is in the home and all that other bullshit, and it's just bullshit. And so
That's changing.
We had a come to Jesus of like, this is me pulling my fair share. This is you pulling your. So neither one of us can get resentful.
Right.
If I don't ever cook, because I'm telling you right now, I don't want to cook, and if I do, it's a treat.
Right.
Like,
yeah, well, I wouldn't call it a treat. It's just a day I don't have to cook. But and then at the time it was like, all right, well, Denise's role is cleaning, so I'll cook, you clean. And it was just her and I at this point, and so that was my thing. But I also, cleaning is therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
Like I like to clean. I love doing laundry.
You hate germs?
Like, yes, I'm somewhat of a germaphobe, and so for me, those are things that I also like to do. So over time, I just kind of like bullied Denise out of cleaning too. So then I started cooking and cleaning. But
he's like, "This is how you load the dishwasher."
Or you're using
every
that rag.
every couple has the dishwasher beef. Like, and I think everyone that loads the dishwasher thinks their way is right. Mine really is. If you want it, you can hit me up. I will show you exactly how to load your dishwasher. But those were roles that we defined for each other. And so it was like, okay. And so as Denise's income potential started to grow up above mine, it was like, okay, so for me, again, recognizing her potential, seeing her greatness, I'm like, I want to make things as easy as possible for her because it benefits the family. And so I'm going to start taking stuff off her plate. So when she needs stuff done that's not helpful to her, to what she's doing, because again, at this time it was grind mode, still 6 days a week, open houses every weekend,
Calls,
all that kind of stuff
text
that all the
messages.
young realtors and loan officers are going through, like the grind, for lack of a better term. I know I keep saying it. Denise was in that. So I'm like, I'm trying to make the rest of what she's doing like as chill as possible, like relaxation. So she could come home, she eats, she's chilling. Her brain is focused on making money. And and that was my attitude. I kind of, it took a while to move into that attitude, because as a man, you feel like my girl is not, I'm not my girl's priority. My love language is like physical touch.
Or we're not great at showing appreciation with words,
Right.
like noticing and thanking.
Yeah. And I'm not really big on that stuff. Like, even in like my professional career, like I don't need a pat, like my paycheck is my pat on the back. Like I'm one of those guys, like I'm getting paid to do something.
Yeah.
My thank you is my check, and we can keep it moving. But in the relationship, just the love and attention wasn't necessarily there in that time period. And so it was something I had to fight for with her at times, because Denise just had a hard shell, like just based on her upbringing and your dad and all that shit. And so it's hard to crack that shell with anyone, not just with her. Like there are millions of people out there that had it just like Denise or worse, who don't trust. They don't trust a woman in their life. They don't trust a man in their life for whatever reason. And that was also work for me. And so, as time went on, a combination of us going to counseling and her being able to give me some of those things that I needed from a love standpoint also made me more comfortable to do things in the relationship that would make her life easier. And so, again, communication is the most important. I got to say, like, dude, counseling was the best thing that happened. That is the only reason why we're still together, the counseling. Yeah. It was so helpful for us to see where each other was coming from, to have a third party, to see things through like a neutral lens and kind of mediate and help. And so, and learning in those counseling sessions how to communicate better. And so,
because we weren't great communicators. And I think the whole twin dynamic of like, sometimes we call each other on the way home.
Sometimes.
Well, yeah, if you look, especially at our call, there's like little periods of time where there was no communication. We won't get into that. But a lot of times we will, call each other, and then by the time we get home, we don't maybe communicate with our significant other.
Yeah, listen, there were times where Denise would come home and even sometimes still where I got to be like, bro, I need some love when you come in the door. Like, don't come in this house and go straight to the office. Don't even think about it. Like, I need some.
It's only because I get
Jason
home
needs
early
some
now.
love
I get
time.
home before.
Listen, there were times, and it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes she's tunnel vision. Like she is on a call or something, or gets an email when she's in the car. She got to go right to the office and take care of it. But I'm like, no, I get my love when you come in the door. Don't come. This is our home. This is our love space. Like there needs to be love here. When you get home, it's me, and then you can go do whatever you want. And I'm not asking for I'm just asking for a smooch and a hug and like, go ahead and do your thing.
Little grab.
Like, me and
ass
Carter.
Grab, like little reach around.
Little squeeze of the booty and like
rub and tug.
Tap the butt and tell her good game. No, but like me and Carter need our love when you come in the house and then you can go and handle business. But
did you ever feel disconnected that she wasn't sharing certain aspects because she had already like shared it with me and then
never.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
No.
that's good.
Denise.
Oh, you want me to do more of that?
Denise will talk. She tells me everything she probably tells you. She comes home and and I don't want to say everything, but
we have such different perspectives. It's crazy. It's crazy hearing. Yeah, because I don't feel like we talk at all.
You feel like we or me?
Yeah, I feel. I mean, we're not going to expose.
Doing all the listening. And
no, I.
That is 100% what is happening.
I have felt like over the years, not to make this a counseling session, but it's like you don't want to hear what Eric did at the office earlier today. So I feel like I actually come home
to be
and I
100%
don't say,
transparent.
I'm just like, hey, how was your day? And he says, good. And then I finish my meal and then we get Carter. Like, I don't feel like I talk hardly at all about what's going on in my world.
Quite frankly, that is alarming.
But Jason also doesn't seem to have as much tolerance for like complaining or like talking about shit that either you're not going to
complain about the same problem twice. And
like what you focus on expands.
Don't bring the same problem. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you, do you want advice or do you want me to listen? And if you ask me for advice and I give it to you, don't come back to me with the same problem, dude.
Right.
Then
so I don't talk to him anymore. Right. So that's why we don't talk anymore. That's actually, thank you. That's confirmation.
Yeah.
Just to get through some of these, do you guys fight now? And then about work, we kind of already answered that.
Yeah, bro.
I want to invest in my career/business, but my man limits me. Why does my career come second?
I don't know who wrote that question. I don't want to insult anybody, but that's a trust thing. I mean,
Trust thing in what way?
your partner has to trust what you're doing. I mean, they have to trust what you're doing. And so I don't remember exactly what it said, but like limiting, what did it say?
Limits me. Why does my career come second?
Like, I think that's limits like my time and money into the business. Like, no, you're spending too much time. You have to take the kids to soccer. Who's going to take the kids to soccer if you're doing an open house thing? You want me to do that?
Yeah, I think that goes, right, yes. I think that goes back to your defined roles in the relationship, believing in your partner and what they're doing and trusting that, you know, they're building something. Like, dude, you don't just drop a house on a piece of land. Like, there's a foundation that's built, and then the walls go up, or the frame goes up, and the walls go up, and the plumbing, and you build on stuff. You have to build stuff, and so like it's easy to do that early on when you know you're not making any money and you're just starting. But like, you know, you got to start somewhere.
And I think one of the things we learned from counseling was like on Sundays, we'll ask each other, what does the week look like? Like, what nights do you have to work late?
Yeah.
You know, lately I've been traveling for conferences and, you know, so letting them know what your week looks like or how stressful it is. Hey, I've got 3 inspections and I have to do those on these days. So you're going to have to come. I don't like to be blindsided, period. But I definitely don't like to be blindsided of, hey, you've got to get Carter. When you're always getting Carter in the afternoon, I take him in the morning.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that in the middle of the day? Like, my days are planned. So we've just learned what works for us is we're at least every Sunday, what does your week look like? And then, you know, sometimes at night we'll forget what the week looks like. And so we'll remind.
And sometimes stuff changes. I mean, it's just.
Yeah. Do you guys ever have to make a decision of whose career takes priority? How did that make you feel?
So, I felt pretty good about it at the time. Like what I was saying before, I was like a gradual process where your income started to outpace mine. And
the income potential, I think we looked at, like you were working a W-2 job. And I remember we went to Hawaii and it was like you had to get approval from your boss, but you were still working while we were checking email. And
I was chained to my desk. Recruiting is a 24/7 job. It doesn't turn off. And so, you know, most of the time you're working with people who are already in a job. So talking during the day is kind of few and far between. Like you can connect during the day, but you're going to actually have a conversation after hours on the weekend, that kind of stuff. So I was chained to my desk, but I will say there was a real like moment for me working. So when I started at the corporate job and my career just really started to skyrocket, like financially and just, you know, my title and everything and my promotions and all that stuff. There was a time, it was around the time Carter was born, where I remember my boss, I went in and we had to take Carter to one of his early appointments to get shots and stuff like that. And so my boss had said to me, I told him like, hey, I'm going to be late. I'd been there for like 4 or 5 years at this point already. And, hey, I'm going to be late tomorrow. I'm like, you know, he knew I had just had a baby or whatever. And I was going to take my kid to the doctor. And he was like, well, why doesn't your wife take him? And I was like, well, first of all, she is, we're both going. But like, second of all, like, why would I make my wife do it? She makes like way more money than me. She actually makes more money than you. And so why would I, and I literally said that to him. And I was like, so why would I make my wife? It doesn't make sense. And that was like the beginning of my end there. So I was like, this asshole. I've worked for this asshole for 4 or 5 years now. I've given him my blood, sweat, and tears. I fucking answer the phone for him. Sorry. 24/7, 24/7. And it was just like such a enlightening moment to me. And I was like, this guy does not give a shit about me at all. Like, I just had a baby, dude. You think I don't want to be there? And my kid is getting shots jabbed into his leg? Like, no.
And Carter is such a mini Jason. And Jason, you're such a good dad. Like you really care to be there and be present with him. That you can tell in the way that he acts. So I can see you.
We're going to get to
Okay, I was going to.
My man complains a lot that I come home moody and stressed out. Would you say Denise is emotional with the job? Is she stressed out a lot? How do you handle?
I don't know if stress is the right word. I don't think Denise ever really stresses. I think worry and stress are 2 different things. So like there's a worry that you have when you have like a file go sideways or a closing that doesn't happen and people have all of their stuff in a moving truck, you know, that kind of stuff. You worry about that stuff, but Dude, everyone is stressed, man. Everyone has stress at times. Like if you're working, especially the state of life here in this country is stressful. Like you're fed so much negativity, like it's everywhere. The news, social media, there's so much you can worry about. I think you have to find an outlet for your stress. It's not just your job. Like you're gonna be stressed. It's unavoidable. You're gonna worry, you're gonna stress. It just is what it is. Unless you're like independently wealthy, but then you're gonna stress about other stuff. You're gonna stress about paying taxes. You're gonna stress about somebody trying to take your money away and sue you or so. Like there's always gonna be something to worry about. And so you just have to find an outlet for it. It's unavoidable.
I don't think
Would you say she's moody?
No, not at all. No, that's not me being sarcastic. Like literally Denise is not a moody person.
I was gonna say, would you say I'm emotional? Because what she said was emotional.
You're pretty chill. I don't think people realize like you're really easygoing, easy to talk to. Like some will tell me they get so intimidated to like come up to you because they're like, oh my gosh, that's the mortgage nerd. And I'm like, if you only knew, we're the easiest people to talk to and the biggest dorks.
Yeah, Denise is so like cool, like just
go with the flow.
Yeah, she's
Let's
just
say emotionally controlled.
Yeah, very much which is a good balance for me. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and so I don't like to hide my emotions. I feel like it's not good for you.
Your counselor said that he's passionate.
Yeah,
and I'm like, there's they used an analogy, but it's like I don't get super excited. I don't get super sad or mad. I don't really cry a whole lot.
I called it the Tin Man growing up.
Yeah,
I was like,
but I think it's emotionally controlled. I try to
very much so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much.
How do I grow my career and not make my husband feel less than a man? Have you ever felt less than?
Like, did your friends ever give you shit, or your brothers like, yo, your wife?
Dude, my friends.
The follow-up question to that is, how do you handle the society judgment about your wife being the breadwinner? So those kind of go hand in hand.
Those questions, for the record, make me so sad. They make me really sad. Like, I don't know. I could go off about this. I'm going to try not to go off about this. So
he wants to.
So I think the first part of read the first question for me again, because I want to address this properly.
How do I grow my career and not make my husband feel less than a man?
So if your husband feels like less of a man because you have a successful career, ego is so dangerous. Like ego is so dangerous. Ego will ruin your relationship. That will ruin your relationship. Your husband's ego will ruin your relationship. Now, I don't know.
I would say go to counseling.
I would say
because there's a deeper rooter issue.
The PC answer is you should go to counseling and find out why your husband. Now, there's a difference in if you're worried that your husband is going to feel that way or if he does feel that way.
That's what I was going to say is that may not be real.
If you're worried he's going to feel that way, you should talk to him first and find out how he feels about it. If he does feel that way, you should go to counseling and figure out why he feels that way. We are so conditioned to believe that the man's place is to be the breadwinner. Like relationships are destroyed by this. It is so ridiculous to think that you cannot be like a power couple you can both be extremely successful. You as a man can have success. Your woman could be more successful than you. And that is a beautiful thing. There's no reason that one of you has to be more successful than the other. It's ridiculous to believe anything else other than that. Now, for me personally, like, I don't give a shit how much money Denise makes. If she makes more than me, I don't care. Like Denise will tell you, as long as I have Denise and Carter, I'm good. I'm good. I don't care about any of that stuff, but there are people who do. And so my answer to that is like, dude, if you make X amount of dollars, right? Like let's say you work at a corporate job and you make $100,000 a year and your partner can work at a different job and their income potential is they're working a sales job and it could be 200, 300, 400, 500. Why would you not be happy about that? I do not understand that. If you're a man and that's your girl, like, why would you not be ecstatic about, do you like?
Well, it kind of goes into how do you handle the society judgment? Like there's been people, who have said, and it drives me crazy, like, oh, I wish if I ever die, I hope I wake up and come back as Jason.
I think I said
Stop
that.
it. Who said that?
I'm like,
No.
can I?
No rational person. That person we need to check on them. We need to check on their mental health. Are you okay?
But they just say, so like the view is that we have a role reversal where like you're the stay-at-home mom.
It's not though.
And people don't realize like he owns a roofing company, insurance company, we have land development, and now he's this crazy crypto investor guy that's actually making a good amount.
That's silly.
But
that is a joke for the record. I'm not.
I know, but you told me that I was going to get to retire from here, so now I'm just wondering. Just making sure. But society might view, and family members, let's just say, might view as like Jason has it made. And what would you? How does that make you feel? That's what the question says: is how does that make you feel?
How does it make me feel that people think that I have it made?
Yeah,
I don't care what to be clear, that's cool. Like I'm glad that it looks like that from the outside looking in, and I'm very lucky, like extremely lucky. That's not lost on me. Just in my life in general, like the way my life went as a teenager to how I got here is a very interesting story. And so it is not lost on me that I am like extremely lucky, for lack of a better term. And I think that anytime you see someone in life that has success, they have money, they have happiness, I think people really don't understand how lucky you have to be in life. Like just with everything, things have to go right for you in order for you to have success and, happiness. And people say like, well, just be happy, and it don't happen that way. And so I'm extremely lucky, but as far as society goes, it's hard for me to answer that question for that person or anyone who feels that way, because I have always been I do not give a shit what anyone thinks about me. I literally do not care. Yeah. I don't.
He doesn't.
I literally do not care.
Not even family. He's like, I don't care.
I don't give a shit. I feel how I feel, and if you don't like it, I'm sorry, but I'm actually not even sorry. It's just, it is what it is. And so as far as society, all right, that's cool, man. What do you think about me because my girl makes more money than me? Let's talk about it. Do you think that I'm not an alpha now? Am I a beta because my wife makes more money than me?
Who's that guy, Bradley, who's like, your woman should, like Bradley, and he hates Bradley and Grant Cardone.
I really wish you didn't say his name. I really wish you didn't say his name. He hates
Bradley, Grant Cardone. Like,
those dudes are...
Okay, moving on. Were you ever worried about growing a family with Denise, with her work and her being a mom?
Yes, very much so. It was a serious concern that I had at one point in our relationship before we decided to start trying. I mean, I was extremely worried. Like, I was not Denise's priority. And so I badly wanted a child. Like, my entire life growing up, I always wanted a family and I always wanted a son. And when I knew that I wanted to have kids with Denise, it was very much a worry that I had. Like, I'm not a priority. And so do I want to have a child with someone who potentially may not make our child a priority? And so, yeah, it was. I think ultimately, again, at the end of the day, you have communication and kind of what does this look like? What does work look like? What does our life look like after we have children? Like, you have to have those conversations. Like, dude, just going in and...
Were you thinking of leaving me when I couldn't get pregnant for so long?
No, never.
I don't think a lot of people know that.
Never crossed my mind. Ever.
Jason wanted to get married before I did and wanted to have kids like right away. And I was always, at first.
No,
That's true. Wait, there was there was a moment where I was like, okay, I'm ready to get married. And he said no.
I said, hell no.
I think that's when you left.
To be clear, I think I had 4 kids in the mix in between all that, right?
I don't know. It gets fuzzy. I have a horrible memory.
It's fuzzy, yeah. It's fuzzy now.
There was a point where I was like, and then he told me no. And then I was like, fine, F you. I'm out. I'm done.
And then the roles, it was not immediately after that, but a little on down the road, I was like, yo, why don't we do this? And she was like, no.
Oh, I was burned.
How many times did y'all break up exactly?
3.
It was rocky.
Okay.
It was rocky for a while.
3 official, and there was a bunch in between where she was like, get away from me. And I was like, nah.
Yeah, I tried really hard. There's some really bad stories. Jason probably thinks I was doing a lot of crazy stuff, but I was like, how much can I test this man to leave?
Testers.
Yeah.
But he always wanted to have kids. He always, from the very beginning, that was very important to him. And then, for years we couldn't get pregnant. And there was no doctor that could really 100% tell us why we couldn't. And
Yeah,
so
there was nothing wrong. Like we both got tested. There was nothing wrong with either one of us. Nothing was misfiring or it just wasn't
your balls
happening.
work
There
right.
was a couple of, but there was a couple things that they told us could be happening, and there was a surgery that Denise could have had, and then
it was
that
weighing,
wouldn't
like,
be
do you have that
100%,
surgery
and
or
then
do you
we were
do
like, Yeah,
IVF?
because if it doesn't work, then you still have to do IVF. And so we just said,
I was getting older.
yeah, let's just skip the surgery part and do the IVF. And
How many years did y'all try?
it was a couple years. It was two years for sure.
It was like
It was
3
a
years
year-
total, but it was 2 years of literally peeing on a stick. And
No, the first year we were just kind of like, all right, we're going to do this. We're not going to try, but we're not going to try and avoid it. And then the second year was like, all right, we're like tracking ovulation.
for 2 years we tracked, peed on a
You
stick.
kept all this a secret from the rest of us. Like we
Yeah.
had no idea, and probably
Yeah.
your team too.
Yeah.
Because you don't show this or talk
Yeah.
about it. So you're dealing with all this internally.
Yeah,
on your
I think
own.
that's another thing too, a society standard that is unfair, and it puts all the pressure on the woman, all the pressure on the woman. And so as a woman, you're expected to rear children,
Yeah.
and you're expected to be a mom and all of these things. And so when women get in this position where, you know, you're having trouble conceiving, and then it becomes, especially when nothing is wrong,
It's frustrating.
the pressure shifts. And so now you have a woman who is trying to go to work every day and make money, trying to have children, and you can't, and there's just like such a huge amount of, it almost makes it worse. And I think for the last year that we tried, it was like a job. Like we're like setting alarms and like, this is not even fun. Like takes all of the fun out of sex. Like it strips it of any like emotional connection. It strips it of the fun, and it became like a job. And we were like, this is awful. And that was a trying time for both of us. And there was never, ever a moment where I was like, if we can't have kids, I'm going to bail. I mean, I think we had tossed around a lot of things like, what if this doesn't work, like adoption or anything. And like, I think if like all else failed, like we would have it's pretty easy. It's been pretty easy for you. So we would have actually,
I told you I would have let you rent.
Or,
your uterus.
you think this was,
I mean, you know.
no, I don't think so.
But I told you if you need to rent my uterus, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty good at carrying and birthing them. I'm sure
Yeah.
Jason
But
would want to know
We got very lucky. We did the IVF. Everything was like A+. Like they pull the egg. Just for those of you who don't know how it works, they take the eggs out of the woman, and then they test the eggs, and there's a grading scale from like A to F. All of our eggs were A. We got a handful of really good eggs, like, and then they fertilize them. They put them back in.
But you're doing like lots of shots during that time,
Yes.
right? Like,
Oh yeah.
lots of shots, and it was lots of doctors. You had to go like every other day to get your blood pulled, and you know,
you
that's
don't do well with needles at all.
no, I'll pass out. But I think just to bring awareness of where, you know, that was a while ago, but like that stuff's not on social.
No. Yeah,
You know, none of that stuff's on social. And so I just think it's a reminder for people that what you see on social media is, I don't want to say it's fake, but it's a highlight of the best
it's
parts.
manicured.
Yeah, it's
Highly
the
manicured.
best part of the, but that was I think maybe my team, a few people on my team knew. I don't even know if the family, like my siblings and stuff knew, because I don't know why. I don't like to not necessarily burden people, but maybe from our upbringing is I just always dealt with stuff myself.
Well, dude, listen, that was so hard. It was so hard for a long time. It was hard for me to see her go through it. It was hard for me, like my family, we had 2 children born into my family before Carter. And so, you know, Denise's reaction to those pregnancies was happy because she loves my brother's wives, but very, you know, hurtful to her because she's like, what is wrong with me?
Yeah.
And there was nothing wrong with her. And it was really hard for me because there's nothing you can do as a man to comfort your woman in that situation. Like, you can hug her and love her and tell her that it's all good and that, you know, you don't care. It is what it is. But like, I remember specifically when there was a pregnancy announcement and she was
It's hard, yeah.
in
and
bad
you're just
shape
seeing
after.
like
It was really hard for her.
at that time in my age, every female was getting pregnant.
Yeah,
like it
yeah.
felt
All
like
of her
in the
friends were
baby
getting
showers.
pregnant.
And it was just being an achiever. It's like, what do I need to work harder at to make it happen? And so you start questioning, like, does God not want me to be a mom? Maybe I'm not fit to be a mom. Maybe I'm just fit to be a businesswoman and not a mom. And
none of that is fair. Those are not fair questions. It's not, just as, and the self-doubt is.
All right, let's
Anyway.
let's get, okay. How was Denise during pregnancy? I'm so scared to get pregnant.
Well, because you have to slow down, and the perception of even agents seeing that you're about to pop, like, is she going to be working?
I was scared to tell my realtors. I remember Bill Hart was my coach, and he was like, you should go talk to Heather Bomar, because she was a, badass female that was, but I hid it for as long as I could before people were like, I mean, it was like obvious, but I was so scared to tell my CEO at the time, because I was the CMO of the company I worked at. And I was scared that real estate agents and clients would think that, like, my work ethic would change, which is sad for me that females feel that. And I had multiple people message me about this topic of, like, I want to have kids, but I'm scared to death to have kids in this business. Because can you do both? And maybe you would disagree. I don't want to speak for you because I want this to be raw and real, but I feel like, especially when we had Carter, my priority shifted from, I'm going to make sure that I'm there for Carter, that, like, I have a first time home buying seminar this weekend, and it was before Carter's baseball schedule came out. And, like, I told Jason last night, I was like, I want to cancel. Like, I want to be there for his first baseball game, and I think I'll be able to catch the first half of it. But, like, I would never. There is no open house, home buying seminar, Zoom, like, that would take priority over Carter or his schedule or anything like that. I don't. So I feel like today you can definitely be a wife and a mom. Granted, I have one. It's a lot different having four. But to be fair, we had a nanny. We had someone that came to our house and helped for the first few years. And so for the female that wrote this in, it's like, you can do both.
You can do both. And I think I'm going to go back to, I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm going to go back to, like, needing luck in this life and how lucky you have to be. And so when Carter was born, we were so unbelievably lucky to have Pearl. So lucky. She came into our life literally at the perfect time. That is a literal statement. She came to us at the perfect time. She is an amazing person. There was no one that I would have wanted to care for my son than her. She was absolutely perfect for him.
She loved him like her own.
She loved him like
he loved her.
Her own, and he loved her too, and he still does. And
poor guy, that's the hottest girl he'll ever. His first crush. We could trust her. She was always on time.
I knew from the moment that I met her that I could trust her with my child. And to me, that was the only reason why I just flat out did not quit my job and say, F it. Like, I'm quitting my job. I'm not, because when Carter was born, and any parent will tell you that life changes significantly. As soon as they lay eyes on their child, their life changes and everything changes. Everything about it changes. And I immediately was obsessed with him. I did not want to leave his side. I didn't want to let him out of my sight. We only had it was like not even 2 weeks, I think. And I think we had been talking to Pearl, like, maybe before you even gave birth. And so I was so scared of leaving him, and she made it so easy.
Yeah.
And I just am so, so thankful for her, because if it wasn't for her, I don't know that I would have been able, I was at work from like 7 to 5 every day. I was gone. And it was hard to be away from him, period. At that age, like, again, I was just obsessed with him. I just didn't want to leave him. And
it took so much to get him.
It took, I
think y'all's delivery was,
we had a weird delivery. And anyway, I say that because not everyone can afford to have someone come to even though paying Pearl was like, wasn't all that more expensive than paying for daycare, but having her it was just, the universe just put us together, and her being there allowed us to continue to work hard and know that our child was at home being taken care of, and, being taken care of really well. I mean, she loved him so much. And so
I think being a working female, though, that's you can do both. That might mean you have to make investments,
Yes,
you know,
correct.
and budget and maybe cut back on certain things to afford that kind of stuff. But you can still have the strong work ethic and be a good mom, a responsible mom, and a loving mom. And
and again, I think I keep coming back to communication, but you know, you have to communicate with your partner and talk about, what does this look like after this child's born? Can we afford daycare? Can we afford to have someone come to the house? Can one of us work from home?
when he's sick all night and pees his bed and is throwing up all night. Like, you know, I will say to the females that it is hard. Like there were days and nights where, you know, obviously when you're first like feeding the baby but even when he's a kid and he's waking up and his legs hurts and you're up all night and then you've got 3 Zoom calls the next day. And I don't want to go down a tangent, but I saw this thing. I think it was Michael Jordan talking about, I think in today's day and age, like sometimes you have to play hurt. And I think people can be coddled to a degree where, you know, you stump your toe and you don't go into work that day. And it's like, there are some days that that's what I'm so grateful for our dad, even though I don't give him a lot of kudos, but he did teach us to play hurt, that just because you have one foot that hurts doesn't mean that that's the reason why you don't show up and give it your all the next day. So there are some days you're going to show up and you're exhausted. You've been up all night, you had puke down your back, but you've got to go to this closing and you know, so
those are things you need to think about before you have children. I mean, they just are.
Assuming you have time to think about that before, because some of us find out that you're expecting and there are no conversations or plans or financial plans.
Yeah, that's on the What Not to Do podcast.
Yeah.
So, all right, this is our last and final question. What advice do you have for women who have men that want to be the provider, who are growing their career? What's the single best advice that you would give them?
I would secretly save a little bit of money, take them on a really nice vacation, and then while you're sipping some fruity drink on the beach, ask them what kind of life they would like to live. Is your ego going to get in the way of me making more money than you and us being able to take a nice vacation every year? Or, you know, do you want to drive to Galveston once a year for
family vacation?
There's
nothing wrong with that.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I think if you're going to...
You just need to identify what kind of life do you want.
Identify what you want to do. Do you want to get on a plane and go to a tropical island or...
Because it doesn't mean it's going to work. Like not everyone, there's a lot of people that try to copy you and they're not you. And they may be doing all the right things and working really hard, but they're missing a little bit of that luck aspect, or they don't have.
Yeah, like this conversation would look a lot different if I was working this hard without the results.
Right.
I mean.
Yeah, you got to know when to cut bait, dude. Like if you're, you know, I think a year is not long enough. Like Denise, you were going to like the wedding things on.
Oh yeah,
the wedding conferences,
the bridal.
Yeah, the bridal expos and getting
somehow I got roped in.
Building a database and all of that stuff. Like, dude, I would say it took you a solid 3 years to build a foundation for what you're doing now. I think people, I don't know if you've talked about that before, but
you don't listen to our podcasts.
I think they think it's an overnight success. Like,
that one.
Jason doesn't watch a single video on Instagram.
Well, dude, I don't look. I have a Twitter, so I could like talk shit. And
I was going to say, you're a Twitter guy.
Yeah, I have a Twitter, so I can talk shit.
Because he likes to read the news.
Yeah,
he's a sports guy and a politics guy.
And so the other stuff, I don't really do it. And so like when I dropped Carter off, my stepmom was like, "Oh, you're doing this such and such," and I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, Denise posted something," and I was like, "Oh yeah, cool."
Listen, your dad is my fan favorite. Like I know if I ever don't hear from him, I'm gonna be like, "Is he okay?"
Listen, Bill likes anyone everything. Out there needs a cheerleader to like all of your posts and engage on your
Who's not a bot.
Who's
He's
not
just
a retired
fantastic
guy who
grandpa.
Fell in love with Instagram.
Like every story, it doesn't matter.
Yes,
like he'll make sure
he will give you feedback on everything. Just hit Denise up. He'll follow you. Follow him back.
Yeah,
he'll be your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's great. He's a fantastic grandpa.
He is.
Yeah,
my parents are wonderful. The grandkids love them, and they love the grandkids. They're literally obsessed.
Yeah,
and they take good care of them. So, and the grandkids keep them young. So
yeah. Well, thank you.
All the grandparents.
We're done.
Yeah, we're done. This is way longer than this is over an hour.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's an hour and a half.
No way.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. I love you, both of you. I appreciate you.
We love you too.
This is going to go over all the social platforms. Are you ready for it?
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be like, there is a...
Because when you put yourself out there,
Dude, I'm telling you right now.
remember I made that one post and he saw a comment on a post and it was like, you married up or something. And he was like, who is this guy?
Yeah, how the F do you know, buddy?
Yeah.
You don't know me.
Wait, someone was saying...
Some turd posted
Said that
under
you
one of-
married up?
Yeah, and was like...
It was a picture.
Can
of
we just
him.
talk about the double standards for a little bit? Like how annoying is it to be married either one of us where we have certain things like chewing. Like if we can hear chewing, even if your mouth is closed.
Listen, we could do this for another 90 minutes and just talk about the hypocrisy of
But like we could be
Denise and Deborah.
chewing
how difficult
incorrectly.
it is to be with someone like me.
Oh, yeah.
I am the most difficult
The
human
little
on the planet.
nuances and like
We have
everything.
weird nuances.
Yeah. Denise is like,
He's the
"Don't
loudest
smack.
shooter.
He's like, don't smack, you're smacking. And then she's like,
He's like passionately
I'm like,
eating.
does that
I
taste
don't
good?
smack. I
It
would
sounds
never.
like it tastes good.
But I have a
or
victory to share.
We'll be on the plane and she's like, I'm like, can you
No,
not
he
tap
he
with your nails?
smacks. He smacks inside his mouth when he's chewing with his
You-
lips closed.
You told me that you can like hear it.
It's so
mushing.
annoying.
That
If
he's,
we
like,
ever get
passionately-
divorced, the number one thing will be like, he's the loudest chewer.
that's not true.
Eater.
There's someone else in the family, as I won't say his name, but
Okay.
he's definitely the loudest.
But
one.
I do have a victory to share, and then we can officially wrap up.
What?
For years, probably a decade, this man eats oatmeal in the morning with berries, and it just
Strawberries
it's-
and blueberries.
When he mixes it, has that smacking noise, and then when he eats it smacking, and then he hits the side of the bowl.
You are slandering me. You're going to be hearing from my lawyers after this.
So obnoxious every morning, Deborah, of my life for like the past 10 years. And you know what he told me the other day? He's not going to eat oatmeal in the morning anymore.
Why?
He's changing his diet up. So he's going to eat more protein. It's going to be like an egg sandwich. So I don't have to listen to the annoying oatmeal. You might get more affection just from that.
Can you just buy plastic spoons?
I was
I
told
wanted to.
before I came on this podcast that
What?
we weren't going to do this.
I was not given those
We'll air out
instructions,
the
so we are
laundry.
doing
Our
it.
next podcast will be the things, the dirt that we just can't stand.
That would be fun, actually. Yeah, it would be fun, but it would probably be very edited.
No.
On a scale
raw.
of 1 to 10, how difficult of a human am I?
You're not very difficult at all.
That's
I don't
a
know
lie.
what I would.
I annoy you
what I
like
would rate
all
it.
day.
Everyone
every day.
annoys me.
That's true.
Yeah, everyone annoys me. But as far as like, seriously, you're not. I mean, you are extremely easy to get along with. You are.
But we lack common
You
sense in some.
well, Denise is emotionally high maintenance. And what I mean by that is what I mean by that is like my emotions towards her. So she needs a lot from like we touched on this.
You
I
don't-
say what
you
hold on.
don't- You literally don't say anything
hold
to
on.
me.
So I say what
I have to
mean.
beg for
I,
it to-
I say what please ma'am, let me finish. So I say what I mean all the time. Like there's no hidden meaning in what I'm telling you is what I'm telling you. Like I'm not trying to say anything else than what I'm telling you. Denise, after 15 plus years, still does not understand this.
Yeah.
So like I will say things to her, I will talk to her, emotionally talk to her, and she's like, well, I think maybe, and I'm like, no, I promise what I told you is exactly what I meant.
Does she put her hands on her hips like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So she
anyway,
thinks she hears it a different way, and you're like, no, it's this.
yeah, she likes to make up the situation in her head.
Mm-hmm.
So like I will tell her and she'll be like, no, that doesn't match the story I've told myself. So
Yeah.
that can't be true.
Yeah, that's
And I'm
probably
like,
the hardest
I
part
promise.
with us.
It is. It's that if you were going to say like how, annoying you are, like that is really my only pet peeve with Denise. I don't have a lot of pet peeves with Denise.
That the story in my head doesn't match the actual reality.
Occasionally, yeah. Yeah, occasionally. But
All right, well.
you're great. Aside from that, you're great.
Stay tuned for the next roasting podcast.
This was not a roast at all.
This
No.
wasn't a roast. This was really good. Thank you guys for
Well,
having me.
I just appreciate a lot of the women that reached out, and hopefully maybe any of this. I think the biggest thing is just, it's like we say in business, set expectations and communicate and be as honest. Don't tiptoe. For most of our relationship, I was such a pleaser that I think I wasn't honest to Jason with how certain things made me feel, or even my own expectations. And so don't do that, because you're just digging a deeper hole. So
Communication rules the nation, guys.